Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. Other people could be seen in the corridor. Rosa hadn't returned for a while after going out into the corridor, so they had begun to worry. Near the front door, Natsui pointed at the unset chain. The chain isn't set. They must have gone outside to see that rose after all. How extraordinarily careless to go out and leave the door unlocked. What a troublesome person. I'm more worried about Rosa-san and Maria-chan themselves. Right. Hey, brats. Where was this Rosa Maria's? I'm pretty sure it was in the flower bed right in the middle of the rose garden. If that's where they are, we should be able to spot them pretty quickly if we go. Dad, shouldn't we bring them back here as soon as we can? Of course. He's like, they're probably dead. We'll bring them back and give them a good spanking. I'll dash out there and come back. Lock the door as soon as I go out. Dad, I'll go with you. Don't be stupid. It's obviously a brat's job to watch over the house with Mama. What is it? Did something happen? Sorry, did I wake you up? It seems Rosa-san took Maria-chan outside. How reckless of her. Rosa and Maria-chan are outside? Do you remember the dream? Or are you aware of it at all? Or is it just like a split personality thing at this point? That you're kind of vaguely aware of? In the rose garden? That's right. Oh, did you hear? Maria-chan was causing a ruckus because she wanted to see this rose. They mustn't. They mustn't go to the rose garden. Tell Rosa to stop. There's no telling her to stop now. It looks like they've left a while ago. Seriously, how reckless of them. That's not it. Not the rose garden. There's a witch there, and she's waiting for a sacrifice. Rosa, you mustn't go. Oh. Eva. Cowered again, holding her head. Her complexion looked very bad. What is it? Did the fever make you dream something bad? It's a dream? Yes. In the rose garden, the witch doing that to Rosa and Maria-chan. That's right. It's a dream. It must be. Calm down. I'm here in this room. And the chain is set. The shutter's closed on the window and we've got a gun. This room is just like a fort. There's nothing to be afraid of. Hideyoshi beat his chest trying to calm him, but Ava's insecure expression didn't change. Under the covers, Ava kept praying that the grotesque nightmares she'd just had was only a dream. You know, I was making the comparison of like Ava being the ego and the witch being the superego. But I think there's a case for it to be made that it's the id and not the superego at all. Or what if you had a combination where you had your ego talking to a DBZ fusion of your id and your superego? I mean, id itself isn't exactly a bad thing. It's not bad to have that part of your mind. In fact, I think it's necessary, but it also needs to be kept in check. If it were to be just fused with the superego without any concept of your normal ego, yeah, at that point you get a supervillain. In the center of the rose garden, Rudolph identified the corpses of Rosa and Maria. After that, he returned to the guest house, called for help, and carried both of them into the guest house. If we can trust Nanjo's examination, the cause of Rosa's death was stabbed to the medulla oblongata with the pointed gate of the fence. It is thought that Maria's death was due to strangling with bare hands. However, due to the devil's proof, we cannot discount a misdiagnosis. I will say it in red. Rosa and Maria died. The causes of death were as Nanjo diagnosed. She wasn't eaten by a spider, nor was she crushed by a mountain of cake. Don't worry. So, you argue that even though you toyed with their deaths so much, it's all fine because the corpse is neat and clean. I definitely won't forgive you. I definitely won't forget all the brutal treatment you gave Aunt Rosa, so I won't forgive you. Like I said, that wasn't me. I believe I gave them a much more peaceful death than the way she treated them. Shut the hell up. I'm not talking to you. It was stated there are no more than 18 people on this island, and now that 8 people are already dead, we can narrow the field of suspects down to 10. One of them probably killed those 2. Or could it also be an accidental death, like Maria was having a tantrum, and when Aunt Rosa tried to stop her crying, she misjudged how much power she was using and accidentally killed her. Then she was so upset she slipped and fell and landed on the fence and unluckily died. How's that? That way there's no need for a witch or magic. Well, that's not quite true. Actually, Rosa and Maria... Shut up. Didn't I say I wasn't talking to you? You're an eyesore, so disappear, you monster. Battler said that without rage, but with a horribly cold voice. That strange behavior was something Beato had noticed right off the bat. In a fight, both of them can go at each other without restraint. However, he wouldn't even step into the ring. She could feel that coldness. Beato didn't find that amusing. She thought about flaring up, but she held back. Maybe, even though she was innocent and childish, she had enough sense to realize that she shouldn't pick fights. Is that so? Then I'll vanish. Renove, continue for me. Certainly. Will that be satisfactory, Battler-sama? There are no problems with her proposal. If Battler-kun doesn't want to see Beato's face, perhaps that will do. Do what you like. If I can live without seeing that monstrous face, I don't care about anything else. Hey, wait a second. You keep saying monster, monster, but isn't that a cruel way to speak of me? Why do you instinctively hate me so much, Battler? Even though none of that was me, even though it was all the work of my disciple. It's not like I'm only mad about what happened just now. It's been like that from the very beginning. Hey, Battler? Don't misunderstand, okay? Aren't we just a pair of players confronting each other through a game? We look for moves to make things painful for each other, but... Don't get the wrong idea. I don't hate you because you're my rival in this strange game about whether I accept you as a witch or not. I just can't forgive how senselessly cruel you are. Well, serial murders are a part of this game. It's probably impossible to avoid a little cruelty. I'm not just talking about what just happened. There was the last time and the time before that, too. Tearing everyone's stomachs open and stuffing them with sweets. Plowing their faces. What was the point of all that? That's, well... When it comes to closed-room murders and tricks and alibis, I'm willing to give you a pass. You want to claim that this is a murder done by magic, so I'll grudgingly accept that those complicated crimes need to occur. But what exactly is the point of all those grotesque murders? It's like, okay, it's like saying you're in a war. It's like, okay, I can understand you had to kill that enemy soldier. But did you have to saw off all their limbs? Like that, I feel that was excessive. Well, nothing much. That's right. They don't mean anything. You're just fooling around by mangling the corpses for fun. That has nothing to do with whether you're a witch or whether it could or couldn't be done with magic. You're just exploring the depths of cruelty for fun. This isn't about whether you're a witch or anything like that. There are just some things I can't forgive as a human. What do you mean as a human? For example, the 6 people in the first toilet for this game Well, other than grandfather being burned black, the other corpses were killed in a normal way, without any unnecessary shaming of the dead. It wasn't clear whether the weapon was a spear or gun, but anyway, as far as killing goes, that was acceptable. It was much better than nonsensical grotesqueness and cruelty from the first Twilight last time, or the time before that. And this time, there were 6 closed rooms tied together to make a closed room chain. This was sort of interesting. When we were going back and forth with each other, that time, to be perfectly honest, I thought it was just a little fun. You were frantic to make me accept your existence, and I was frantic to deny it. We were both frantically doing all we could. This may sound weird, but I felt a faint sense of sportsmanship between the two of us. We exist in conflict, but I faintly thought that we might not be completely unable to understand each other's existence. But just now, that feeling was blown away without a trace. That's what you're misunderstanding. That wasn't me. That's not it. That's not what I'm talking about. You watched Aunt Rosa being killed horribly over and over, and you sneered at it like it was an interesting show. You were enjoying it. When I saw that, I was deeply disappointed in you. When I realized that your decision to kill them in a slightly better way this time was nothing more than a faint whim, and that nothing had changed in your cruel character, I was deeply disappointed. On the contrary, you were even genuinely enjoying those brutal deaths. You weren't just acting as cruel as you could to bully me. You truly, genuinely enjoy cruelty. Your character lets you enjoy it. You said I'd probably think that Aunt Rosa being brutally killed over and over was fun. You weren't joking. You enjoyed it from the bottom of your heart, wanted me to sympathize, and said that I'd probably think it was fun. In that instant, I lost respect for you and realized the truth. The problem isn't whether you're a witch or not. I will not forgive that cruelty of yours, and I can't understand it. I can't forgive it either. Still, I'll continue this game of whether to accept or deny witches. I won't step down and accept my own defeat. However, your pointless cruelty is absolutely unnecessary for that game. So I've decided that I won't accept you as my opponent. Renove is 100 times better. He doesn't have the same cruel hobby you do. Even if he doesn't have the awful taste to show it off in front of me. That's right, you have awful taste. You're heartless and cruel, so you can't understand. That's unpleasant in an opponent, so I don't want to see your face again. As Battler went on and on by himself, Beato was shocked into silence for a long time. Maybe she couldn't understand what she was being told, and this was a sign that she was doing all she could in an effort to understand. For a while, she kept switching between angry expressions, frustrated expressions, bold expressions, as though even though she herself didn't know what attitude she should take. In the end, she made her face into a candid expression, as though she had come to her senses, and shrugged her shoulders as though she was tired. In that case, do as you like. From now on, I will continue this game through Renove. You have no complaints as long as I don't show myself, right? For the time being. But I definitely won't forgive all of your cruel actions up until now, and I definitely won't accept you. For that reason as well, I won't back down from this fight you've picked. And I definitely won't lose. I feel like there will eventually come a time that Beato starts to actually, like in the last episode, she was starting to feel a bit of remorse about things. But I feel like there might come a time where she like fully understands like what the fuck's wrong, and she's like, It's like, Battler, please help. I'm a monster, and I don't know how to not be a monster. So, but that's already giving Beato more credit than most humans. And to, regardless of being sincere or not, it's Battler's choice whether or not to how he responds to that, and he's justified in any reaction he has. That's all there is to it. Beato, no matter how many more excuses you give, his impression will not waver. I have something to talk about later. Until then, stay back. Indeed. Understood. died in the rose garden with her medulla oblongata pierced by the spear-shaped part of the fence. If Maria's death hadn't been a clear homicide, it may have been possible to suspect an accidental death in Rose's case. Her corpse was found in the rose garden. The cause of death was strangling, probably by bare hands. Circumstantial evidence makes it reasonable to assume that she was killed after Rosa. Then her blood became the red ink for the witch's oath. Then I'll vanish until you call. Looking lonely, Beato turned her back to them and vanished. Battler watched, a slightly displeased expression on his face. He thought his argument had been valid, but for some reason his mood didn't clear up. She's an idiot. That's true. An idiot and a straightforward one. That idiot watched Aunt Rosa get killed horribly with me, then turn around with a huge smile on her face. She really believed that she could laugh with me at that cruel show. She really believed that I could sympathize with that emotion. Looking at that innocent smile, I felt just horrible. It would have been much better if she had said it with her normal bullying face. Damn it. Milady has never had the experience of having a friend. In addition, she has probably never had something spoken to her that strongly. Madame and I are her attendants. No matter what we say, it will not reach her ears. For Milady, this is also... Don't screw with me. I don't remember ever becoming her friend. That's true enough. My apologies. There is one thing I would like to thank you for. Thank you for not backing down from that child's game. She spoke words of gratitude, but for some reason Battler made a displeased face. Then, as though in self-derision, he chuckled. Now that I've even got witches and demons thanking me, I'm screwed. Let's resume the game. Of course, I don't intend to go easy on you. I wouldn't have it any other way. Unlike Milady, I do not get agitated. I've already made my move. If we suppose that Aunt Rosa is the culprit and died in an accident, I can deny the witch. I don't want to suspect Aunt Rosa, but I think I can bear to accept the premise if it'll beat the hell out of Beato. I will deny it with red. Rosa and Maria's deaths were homicides. Okay, let's start from there. Damn, just not getting fired up. With Rosa's and Maria's deaths, it was now clear that the culprit was still hiding somewhere, trying to add even more murders to this chain. As he shed tears, Rudolph scolded Rosa's corpse for being reckless several times, but Rosa would never respond to that again. They decided to place the two corpses in one of the guest rooms and to seal it off until the police arrived. The second murder, the murder of the second Twilight, had delivered a heavy blow to everyone. It had blown away the optimism that some of them had held. The thought that a crime didn't actually occur and it was all a game or a farce by Kenzo and the servants, trying to distract themselves from the loss of the people they liked. George and Jessica had spent the whole time since morning talking about every possibility, and they had distracted their hearts by supposing that these murders might actually have all been an act, and that Shannon and Cannon were only pretending to be dead. When the next murder occurred, it destroyed that thought, and they were once again struck by the fact that the person they liked had most definitely been killed. The tears that they thought had died away began to drip down once more, and Battler couldn't think of anything to say to them. After that, all of the adults checked that all of the rooms were safe and locked just in case. They made certain that the shutters on all the windows were down and locked, and they confirmed that no one suspicious was hiding anywhere. On top of that, they checked their weapons once again, and checked with each other to make sure that they were mentally prepared so they wouldn't hesitate to fire off a preemptive shot they saw the shadow of a mysterious person. By the way, the gun that was left with that Aunt Rosa had, what happened to that gun? Did we bring that gun inside? Rosa's gun had been found near the scene of the crime. Someone had gone out of their way to leave it there, so everyone suspected that it was some kind of trap. But when Hideyoshi delicately used a fire iron to fire off test shots, it was able to discharge without incident. So since the 5 shots loaded in and discharged without any problem, they reloaded it with bullets and handed it over to the only adult male who wasn't armed, Hideyoshi. However, the fact that it had been able to fire off 5 shots gave rise to a certain paranoia. This short barrel Winchester could hold only 5 shots. In other words, Rosa hadn't fired even once, and yet the 2 had probably been killed by someone with their bare hands. This meant there was a possibility the crime had been committed by someone whose face they knew. When the first murder occurred, I probably thought of the possibility that it was all an act. My apologies, Dr. Nanjo, but if it had actually been an accomplice, I thought the deaths of all the servants might possibly have been a massive, elaborate act by Father. And Nanjo's like, hey, I understand. It was a very shocking thing, and the first response that most people are going to have, other than being in straight-up shock, is denial. It's a painful thing to have to face, and usually the best way to deal with the emotional burden of facing that is to deny that it exists. I will say this. Again, I like Kairi. I think she is, one, very beautiful. I like her personality. I like her face. And I like the way she expresses her emotions on her face. And I think she's also very smart. She seems very mature, very smart. She seems to have a very philosophical mind. And she seems to be very humble about it, too. Also, I like her boobs. I like boobs. After all, the closed room situation they were in couldn't have been created unless we supposed that it was all an act. We also suspected that. No, I still want to believe that's the case. My apologies, but that is not so. I am quite old. I might possibly make a misdiagnosis. However, I would never mistake whether they were alive or dead. I get it. Don't go out of your way to say it out loud, Dr. Nanjo. My apologies. They had no way of knowing, but Beato had already used the red to proclaim the deaths of the 6. No, the deaths of all the victims so far in this game. The faint dream that it was all farce, that the victims were actually alive, I'm sorry to say it, but that's impossible. In that case, it makes more sense to assume it's someone familiar with the mansion, someone hiding around and carrying out a really well-polished crime. I think now, of course, Battler can't really ask this because he's already confirmed with magical super people that that there are no more people than the people we know about. But from a normal person perspective, your first assumption would be, were there other servants working for Kenzo that, we don't know about? I mean, it is a big island. So ever since the typhoon came to this island and sealed it off from the outside world, there's been more than 18 people here. Of course, there was no way for them to know about that either. That claim of Rudolph's has also been denied in red. There are no more than 18 humans on this island. I might have a way to look at it that keeps things consistent at least a little. Simply put, this person in hiding is someone who shouldn't really be on this island right now. And yet, there's a likelihood that they were someone Rosa knew, someone she'd let her guard down around. So for example, could it be a servant who wasn't on this 2-day shift? It's hard to be certain about that one. When our servants finish their work and leave the island, it isn't as though we punch their ticket or something to make sure. If we're supposing that a servant on a shift from a few days ago only pretended to leave the island and actually stayed here, that would be hard to deny. I don't think Rosa-san is such a fool. If a servant who wasn't supposed to be here popped up in front of you, who wouldn't be on their guards? I'm not even sure we should be assuming that it was someone she recognized. Maybe they suddenly attacked Rosa from the darkness and were able to steal her gun. Then Rosa fell, hit her head against the fence, and stopped moving. The guest house is nearby, and they wanted to avoid the sound of gunfire. So they killed Maria-chan with their bare hands. I mean, that does actually make sense. There's also that possibility. Still, even if that is the case, would they really intentionally leave Rosa's gun at the scene of the crime? We don't know what the culprit's armed with, but they've got to feel insecure about our guns. So yeah, they have to have some concern about their gun, but here's the thing. For them to leave Rosa's gun there means they have some other weapon of their own. Wasn't that a perfect chance for them to thin out our supply? Why would they intentionally leave it at the scene of the crime? At first I thought the gun was a trap. Again, I like everything about Kyrie. And I fully understand there probably will come a time in one of the later episodes where Kyrie probably behaves in a less than savory manner. After all, that was kind of the point of Higurashi, that it was like a roulette of everyone taking turns of going insane. At first I thought the gun was it then. That's what the chessboard thinking says it should be. By purposely leaving it, they wanted to make one of us touch it. And they must have wanted to make us pull the trigger. I was sure that something dangerous had been done to it, to make it explode and cause massive injuries. But it was actually okay. The culprit probably panicked. Why am I suspecting that it was Hideyoshi that strangled Maria? I'll bet that right now they're regretting they missed their chance to steal a gun. I don't like it. Though at the same time, that means this. If Hideyoshi was the only person here who didn't have a gun, and if Rosa dies, well, he'd be the only person that'd be logical to give the gun to. After all, he was the one willing to test it to see if it misfired. Now, I'm going to say, oh, that was very selfless and brave of him. You know, unless he was the one who committed the murder. Then again, wouldn't he be drenched in rain? It ticks me off like it's a message from the witch saying she isn't even scared of guns. However, in any event, this is truly a fearsome opponent. Even at a glance, they should have been able to tell that Rosa had a gun. To think that they attacked her despite that, the fact that they are unafraid of guns, should not be taken lightly. Indeed, it's as Natsui says. We should probably be even more cautious than we have been. This is just for peace of mind, but at the time we think Rosa-san was attacked outside. Where was everyone? Natsui and I were here along with Rudolph and Kairi-san. I can guarantee their alibis. Ava and I were together. I can guarantee that. George and Nikki, Jessica, and I were together. When Aunt Rosa yelled at us to return to the second floor, we retraced our steps back to the cousin's room and all dejected. Back then, if we hadn't let Maria go, saying that isn't going to change anything. Dr. Nanjo? I was reading a book in a room on the second floor. I was by myself, so no one can verify my alibi, but I believe everyone saw me return to the second floor with the children. Also, I'm not strong enough to fucking strangle people or throw someone on top of a fence. I mean, I don't think Nanjo's been working out. Once I say this, it'll never end. But what if you jumped out the window, attacked Rosa, then climbed back up using a rain gutter or something? Do you think he looks strong enough to climb a rain gutter? Like I feel like I'm at least a little bit stronger than Nanjo. But I don't think I could climb a rain gutter. You know, in the non-rainy, windy, stormy weather. Let alone during a storm. Don't be absurd. How could I perform a feat such as jumping down from the second story or climbing up with this old body? Let us stop suspecting each other. It's more important that we trust each other for the children's sake as well. Defend this place until the very end. You're right. It's like Natsui-san says. For now, let's stop suspecting each other. That's right. We may be useless as far as searching for the culprit is concerned. We can only stay alive until tomorrow, inform the police, and follow their instructions. Because the police will definitely expose who the culprit is. By the way, Ava, now you can't tell people you found the gold. Because not only would it be more suspicious, but if you mentioned that Rosa discovered you finding the gold, well, it kind of makes you very suspect. It kind of gives you a motive. What is it, Ava? Is your body still feeling bad? Mother, what's wrong? Are you okay? Sorry. It looks like my fever is still strong. I'll be fine, so leave me alone. You know, we are here next to Dr. Nanjo earlier, so we should get the medicine from Dr. Nanjo. There's a doctor right there. We should talk to the doctor. When they looked, they saw Ava staring at the floor, her breathing harsh again. When she had been able to act firm for a time due to the urgency of their situation, but it seemed her body wasn't at its best after all. Yeah, I killed those two. Now we're the only ones who know about the gold. I won't give up even a scrap to the other siblings. What have you done? There was so much of that gold, right? Giving Rosa and the others their share wouldn't have been a problem at all, right? It would. That gold is to be passed on only to the head of the Ushiromiya family. I mean, technically true. The person who gets the epitaph gets rights to the gold. But part of having the rights to the gold is you can choose what to do with it. Like, if you're a rich person, yes, you have rights to all your money, and no one can tell you what you can do with it. But at the same time, if you choose you want to give some of it to a family member or a friend or even to a homeless person, well, no one has a right to tell you you can't do that. It's your money to do with what you want. If you want to use it to help others, you're allowed to do that. Or if you want to be, equitable to family members who you care about, even if you haven't exactly always got along with them, doesn't mean you fucking hate them. And if you have plenty, then why wouldn't you help them? Like, I have some disagreeable feelings when it comes to my dad, but if I was ever a multi-millionaire, I would make sure to give him money just so that he would have a more comfortable life. Then again, I don't know if he would even want it. But the main point is, if I had stuff at my disposal, I wouldn't hold shit against him. I don't hate him. I have disagreements about things, but I don't hate him. That's because it, as a whole, represents no more or less than the honor of the head. To wound that even a tiny bit is definitely not something that I, the new Golden Witch Beatrice, will permit. Giggle. This definitely, reminds me of Gollum and Bilbo Baggins and... Or Thorin? Thorin from the Hobbit movies? The Dragon Gold Sickness? It's like it's the precious, the one ring. Do you plan to continue these murders according to the witch's epitaph? Do you actually plan to become a murderer 5 more times? Yeah. If I don't finish that annoying ceremony, it seems my power as a witch won't become complete. The other thing is this. After you complete those murders, now that you've, here's saying, you're even if you say, okay, I have to do these murders for the sake of the ceremony. Okay, fine. I can understand that, but again, it's one thing that you have to kill the people for the sake of the ceremony. You don't have to go out of your way to be cruel about it. Heck, even if you went up to them with a knife and just stabbed them a bunch, it would still be more merciful than boiling them alive in chocolate or baking them in an oven, like, you know, you have a certain type of mustache underneath your nose, or crushing them with large things like it's a jackass stunt gone wrong, or an ocean of, you know, jelly like it's epic mealtime from early YouTube, or making them being eaten alive by a fucking spider, or giving them a body horror of being turned into a bug, or making them float up in the sky and then just dropping them into the... Main point is this. Yes, one could argue, yes, you have this witch power, and maybe if you don't complete your witch powers, not only will your powers not be complete, maybe you'll just, like, die. You're like... It's like, well, if I don't do my witch power things, well, I'll start to melt. So you have to kill people. And it has to be these people. Fine, we can reason that, and I can give you some, you know, leeway on that. To not judge you for that. But at that point, you can just instantly kill people. You don't have to make them suffer in any way. It can just be, heck, you can just, like, make a lightsaber and decapitate them. Or just, like, stab them through the stomach. I mean, that killed Qui-Gon Jinn. I mean, heck, imagine someone surviving a lightsaber wound. Just saying, in general, that's a pretty quick way to die. It'd probably still be painful, but at least it'd be over in, like, 30 seconds. As opposed to killing them horrifically and then resurrecting them to kill them again and again and again and again. So... once you finish the ceremony, if you don't have to kill anyone anymore for the sake of your magic, at all, ever, well, do you intend to ever kill anyone ever again? Or are you just going to use your magic for good at that point? You're only using it to kill people now because you're required to. In the same regard, if, like, something happens like, hey, you, in order to keep your mana points up for your magic, you know, you have to keep killing people from time to time. Well... are you going to go out of your way to be cruel to them, or are you just going to kill them for the sake of getting nutrients? It's like, I support eating meat. I like meat. It's delicious. And I find it very nutritious. However, here's the thing, like cows. I think the cows should be treated well, and whenever they die, they should be killed in a way that is quick, painless, without fear or pain. And they should be able to live a long life. Like, the cows should be able to live in good condition, be treated well, and they should be able to live a long, full life. They shouldn't be, like, being beaten or mistreated or just locked in a cage, unable to move, or basically raised to the point that they're just old enough to be meat and then slaughtered on the spot. They should be at least treated humanely. Like, I see nothing wrong with killing a cow to eat it. But, you know, you shouldn't be, like, breaking its kneecaps and pissing on its face and then stabbing it repeatedly in the eyeballs and then killing it. Like, no, you should be able to, like, painlessly, instantly kill it, and also not doing it in front of the other cows, because why would you fucking scare the shit out of them like that by making them see another cow die? You would take the cow off somewhere separate, and you'd kill it in the quickest, most painless way, to the point that the cow should not feel any pain, any fear. The cow shouldn't even realize it died, and it should have lived a full, happy life, to the point that it would have had a better life than if it wasn't at a farm. And I think most farmers out there do actually care about their animals. I think most, you know, especially small or medium-sized farmers, in terms of how big their farm is, like, I would imagine especially most, like, family-owned farms, I'd imagine they actually are nice to the animals, and they actually care about the animals, and they respect and are grateful for the meat and the milk and stuff they get from the cows. Now, I would say if we're talking like a large corporation or some company or like the government, I don't think they care, and I don't think they would be likely to show kindness. But I think most actual farmers who actually like have dairy cows, especially if it's like a dairy cow, I think they're probably much kinder to their cows and treat them well and with respect. Now, if we're talking corporations, yes, I'd expect there might be many corporations that might cut a lot of corners and are just trying to use 1,000 cows to get all the milk possible might be pumping the cows full of hormones so they make more milk. But at that point, not only is that less healthy for the cows, but also it diminishes the value of the milk because the milk quality has changed. Because one, you're now having the hormones go through the cow into the food, as well as the fact that, well, because you overproduce the milk, it increases the amount of pus that can end up in the milk. So now it's a lower quality milk that is more likely to make you sick. So I would venture that there's many people that if they have a large farm or a corporation, they care less about the quality of the product, they care less about the life of the animal, and they care less about what happens to the person who's consuming the product. After all, the whole point of mad cow disease is that people wanted to cut corners by feeding the dead cows to the other cows to save money on feed, at which point that created mad cow disease. So not only did the cows suffer immensely from that, but any human eating that meat actually contracted a deadly brain disease that, to the point that in order to fix this issue, they literally had to not only incinerate so many tons of meat, but they actually had to literally slaughter and just burn the corpses of so many cows that were still alive in order to avoid causing a huge pandemic of, more people getting infected with a horrifically painful brain disease. It's both that and the thing I was saying about, the testing a shampoo on bunnies. The idea is, above all, you're trying to be as least cruel as possible, but the point is you are making necessary, choices, whether it be using some animal testing or slaughtering an animal for meat in order to get the benefit out of it. But there's no reason to be needlessly cruel or reckless. Like, if you're testing a shampoo on animals, then you should be able to test it thoroughly so that you believe that there should be no harm coming to the animal at all. You're just doing the sort of formality of testing it on the animal so that you don't suddenly release it to millions and millions and millions of people who would then all suffer from some horrific unforeseen issue that you didn't see in the math. It's kind of like, imagine it's the difference between, say, physics and engineering. Like, both are absolutely necessary in science, but a lot of times people get too obsessed with one side of it. Like, for example, if you were to build something, you could build something structurally that it obeys physics, but you sort of forget concepts when it comes to the real world. Like, build a bridge. Okay, you build a bridge according to physics, everything's fine, and you build it as efficiently as possible, but you build it according to ideal circumstances, and the world is not a vacuum. Like, what if there's strong wind, on the bridge? Like, how's that going to affect things? I mean, it could be that under ideal circumstances, your bridge is perfect, but under, real world situations where things change, like temperature and wind, things like that fluctuate, your bridge could crumble. The main point is, it's possible to accept some small amount of cruelty to avoid greater cruelty. But at the end of the day, your goal should be to not be cruel. It's kind of like the idea that mercy to the wolf is cruelty to sheep. If you feel so bad about killing a wolf, well then what happens to the sheep? At the same time, the wolf deserves to live too. But at the end of the day, letting the wolf live, what happens to the sheep? Heck, even Trigun went with this idea of ours, a spider and the butterfly. If you crush a spider, you kill it, but you're saving the butterfly. But if you save the butterfly, the spider's going to die anyway of starvation. So, basically, one should endeavor to not be cruel and to be kind, but also you have to be, aware of reality. Like, at the end of the day, say, I'm pro gun rights, but I think, people should only use a gun responsibly, that only people who, don't have, obviously, if you've ever been, arrested for multiple homicides or have some sort of serious psychological problem, you probably shouldn't have. Like if you're addicted to heroin, maybe you shouldn't have a gun. But at the same time, in general, guns should just be for self-defense. And if you're in public and have a gun, concealed carry, you should still behave as if you don't have a gun. You should still be very polite, and you should go out of your way to de-escalate situations, even if you have the means of, fighting people. I would say even if you have like superpowers like this person, I mean, there's no reason to go out of your way. I mean, yeah, everyone's going to think you're a fucking pussy-ass bitch, but at the end of the day, what matters more, your own pride and ego about what people think about you, or the fact that you would rather just avoid hurting people? I mean, at the end of the day is this. But at the same time, there are some situations where it is necessary. Like, say if someone breaks into your house. Yes, it's lamentable and very sad that you have to shoot the person breaking into your home. But at the end of the day, if you don't shoot them, well, they're going to hurt you. They're going to hurt other people. So at that point, you shooting them is actually the least cruel thing you could do. And is actually the kindest thing you can do. And above all is this. There's no way I would tell people, no, don't defend yourself. No, if someone breaks into your house, you do whatever you have to protect yourself and to protect anyone else living with you. And, you don't... And heck, even if you could guarantee that the person breaking your house isn't going to hurt you or anyone else, it doesn't mean that you should have to deal with the humiliation or the terror of someone breaking into your home, let alone the fact that they're stealing from you. You have a right to defend yourself in every sense. Now, yes, it's lamentable and very sad and regrettable that you have to shoot this person, but, they made the choice to break into your home, so they're the one responsible for you shooting them multiple times in the chest, and all those things. And then being, knocked through your window or something if you pulled out a fucking sniper rifle and shot them point blank. Again, now we're being facetious. Because then I could also argue that you shouldn't be using certain things in home defense. I'll say this. I'm okay with people having, a bazooka and multiple assault rifles and sniper rifles and grenades and shit. But my point being is this. Anybody who has those weapons should be trained on how to use them and should have a pretty decent IQ. You should be trained on how to use the weapons, and you should be smart. And it's not good enough to be one or the other. You could be someone with a really high IQ. You could be really smart. But if you haven't been trained with the weapon, then you haven't been trained with the weapon. You need to be both. You need to be at least not stupid. And you need to actually be trained with things and be responsible. Like you're saying, if you were to take a sniper rifle out and shoot someone point blank in your own home, I mean, that bullet's probably not going to stop when it hits the person. I mean, it'd probably go through the wall. I mean, what if you have neighbors? It could actually go through your wall and hit their house and hurt someone you don't want to hurt. Or if you use a bazooka. If you use a bazooka in home defense. Won't you just blow up your own house? At that point, wouldn't you just, destroy your own home? Wouldn't you hurt yourself in such close quarters? It's you wouldn't throw a grenade in your own home in a close quarter combat situation. That doesn't seem very safe. If the point is to avoid the person hurting you, and defend your home, at this point you're actively exploding your home. Your home is now on fire and everyone's exploded. It doesn't seem very smart. But heck, even if she has to keep killing people to replenish her mana, and if she doesn't replenish her mana enough, she'll start to die from mana poisoning. We're making up magical diseases now. If you're a witch and you lack a certain amount of magic hit points, you'll start to die and get leprosy or magic cancer. Main point is this, even if that was the case. Heck, imagine if you're a vampire and you have to actually go out and drink people's blood. Well, does that mean you have to torture them before you eat them? Or would you rather just do it in a way to try to avoid causing them suffering? And heck, if it's that point, if you're a vampire, you gotta drink blood, is it possible to just drink just a little bit so that you don't actually cause the person any serious harm? Then there's a question of this. What if you're someone, like, what if the magic power requires more than you actually killing people? What if you have to actually torture people? Like, what if their actual pain and suffering and fear and sadness and despair, like the negative emotions, as well as their actual physical pain, actually gives you power? At that point, is that even worth it anymore? Like, I argue, like, hey, it's fine to kill a cow for meat, but, you know, you should be kind to it. But, like, what if, like, you were really cruel to the cow and, like, called it really bad, mean names, and then you, like, hurt it really badly, and they made it, like, watch a really bad movie or something, and it being sad about that made the meat more nutritious and gave you super strength? Would that be worth it at that point? Like, where do we draw the line? Like if we make things more bad, but there's a benefit with it, at what point is it, like, not worth it? Hey, me? The power of the witch is really awesome. It really can make all the crazy things we imagine become reality. The power to make dreams more than just dreams. Now that I've learned all this power, I can no longer stop being a witch. If I can finish the ceremony and make my power complete, I'm sure I'll be able to teach you that feeling too. Giggle. Stop acting like a fool. And fool? It's a translation thing. Haven't you played at being a witch enough? We found the gold, and we've been able to promise the position of the successor. We'll probably need to tightrope walk just a bit, but by now, that's a dream that would definitely come true. Beyond that, what more could you wish for? I wanted to become a witch. I don't give a damn about that dream. That's right, because I kept holding on to that dream. I've lived at this age forever. When you became an adult, you threw that dream away. No matter how long you wait, the rabbit holding a clock won't visit you, and you won't be able to meet Humpty Dumpty. Of course, you won't be invited to the land of cards, because you gave up and accepted all that. You became an adult. Okay, can the younger version of you that's a witch kill you? Like, is Ava still a possible target? So you don't want to become a witch or anything like that anymore. You've even forgotten that it truly was your own dream at one point. Anyway, stop it. I've already gotten my hands on 2 dreams. The gold and the position of the head. That's more than enough. So please, your dream has nothing to do with me. Stand down. No way. Magic's too interesting. Also, those 2 dreams of yours both came true because of my magic. It wouldn't be fair if my dream didn't come true too. I'm grateful for your magic and I acknowledge that you're a real witch. So just stand down and return to the inside of my heart. It's like, you can be magic, just don't, like, boil people alive. That feels excessive. Also, it reminds me, I've talked about this before, but there's actually, like, weird things in the Bible. Like, there's a passage in the Bible that says specifically, quite literally, do not boil a baby goat in its own mother's milk. Why that was an issue that had to be addressed in the past, I don't know. No way. We're both misunderstanding each other, aren't we? That's right, I am not you anymore. You are Ushiromiya Ava. I am the Golden Witch Beatrice. So it's not my responsibility to go back inside your heart. I guess I feel like a butterfly who's broken out of her cocoon, meaning you. Oh, so Ava, you're just the fucking husk that was left behind. Haha, the fever is making my mind cloudy. My inexperience with magical power is forcing me support it with your vitality. Until I finish the ceremony and become a full witch, you might have to bear the burden. I'll take that as a payment for making 2 of your dreams come true. It's fine, don't worry, okay? For the remaining 5 sacrifices, I'll avoid your family. Let's see, Rudolph, Kairi, Kraus, Natsui. After that, what about that old geezer, Nanjo? Perfect. I'll kill those 5 people. Giggle, giggle. Could you call this a murder announcement revealed only to you? Ava finally crouched down. Hideyoshi rushed up to her and lent her his shoulder. Are you okay? Let's take it easy and rest. Are you alright? Dr. Nanjo, take a look at Ava. When Nanjo and George tried to approach Ava, Ava made a gesture to stop them. Thank you. I'm fine, Dr. Nanjo. I'm taking medicine. I apologize for saying this during such an extreme situation, but let me rest a little longer. Honestly, at this point, there is a way to solve this. One, do nothing, let the other witch do her shit, but there is a way to stop her, if you're Ava. But it's kind of extreme. The new witch is using Ava sort of like a backup battery of energy. So, what she needs to do in this moment is like, okay guys, so guys, I have things to tell you. First off, George, Hideyoshi, or like Honey in the Sick is her husband. I found the gold. It's in this location. The meaning of Sweetfish was this. This is what that meant. That's what that meant. The killer's next goals is Rudolph, Kairi, Kraus, Natsui, and then Nanjo. That being said, I was an unwitting accomplice to them, and so now I atone. And then basically turn the gun around, blow her own brains out. At which point, the new Beatrice can't do shit now. But of course, that's a lot to ask. Mom, I'll lend a hand too. Thank you. But I'll be fine as long as your father watches over me. Go back to the second story cousin room and don't come out no matter what. Understood? No matter what happens, you must not leave the guest house. Outside, that witch will... Ooh. Don't talk anymore. Sorry, everyone, but I'll be watching over Ava in our room. Tell us if something happens. Hideyoshi and Ava retreated from the lobby. However, Ava wasn't the only one who wasn't feeling good. They hadn't gotten a wink of sleep since the previous night and had been pressed by tension since that morning. That's the other thing. I don't think, the other battler that's having this competition chess match, I don't think the new Beatrice is aware of that person's existence. They hadn't gotten a wink of sleep since the previous night and had been pressed by tension since that morning. They were mustering their energy to protect their families, but if they relaxed even a little, surely everyone would be down now. Everything has gone planned until now, but from here on out, it will become difficult, you see. Difficult meaning? Indeed. Normally, as the ceremony progresses and the victims increase in number, they begin to tighten their guard. And in most cases, they hole up in one place and stop moving. This is extremely inconvenient for us. Are you saying that we witches are inferior to a bunch of humans in a group? Witches are never inferior to humans. However, perhaps you could say that times change and that humans have gotten their hands on a poison. This wasn't a problem long ago when people believed in witches, but just like that annoyance battler, people in the current era deny magic on a fundamental level. In other words, their existence itself is anti-magical. As a result, at some point, at this point, it sounds like the orcs from fucking 40k. If you believe red makes you go faster, it makes you go faster. But if you have a bunch of people that suddenly just don't believe red makes you go faster, then the magic just doesn't work anymore. Then again, a lot of people went by that concept when it came to the Greek gods that, you know, people praising and worshiping the gods is what they got their power from. Like they're just sort of siphoning off your fucking soul and using it like a fucking Capri Sun pouch. You know, I haven't had Capri Sun in a long time. I want to get some of those. I'm going to buy some Capri Sun later. As a result, they grew to possess a toxin inside their bodies that denies magic. In other words, you're saying that the more humans there are, the stronger the magic-resisting toxin gets, and the greater the disadvantages for us witches. The combined amount of power in their hearts that denies magic, in other words, their magic resistance power becomes the denominator in the equation of your magic's power, like fractions. Okay, we're using math. But at that point, wouldn't it then be described as mass hysteria? Like if you introduce a large group of people that believe in crazy bullshit, then that like overloads the group psyche. Like we're talking about like 100 monkeys typing Shakespeare. Or the idea that if you had multiple human colonies close to each other that have no actual contact with each other, or even multiple groups of monkeys or animals that behave a certain way, that even though they have zero contact or communication with each other, if one group suddenly learns a skill, all of them seem to learn it in synchronicity. Understand? Is that a bit too difficult for you? You're joking. Actually, I understand it easily. In other words, you're saying that the more people there are who don't believe in magic, and the stronger their will is, the more effects of our magic are divided. The more the effects of our magic is divided. Yeah. If it's so formulaic, I'll have to rethink my method of attack. Fundamentally, magic possesses a vast power. It can even make a rain of fire fall from the heavens or divide a sea, and reviving a lost life isn't impossible either. However, that power is extremely weak against the toxin that rejects it. And that toxin started piling up in humans since the time they forgot to respect things sacred, until finally this earth was covered with enough toxin that the miracles of magic could not be displayed. Thus, witches from across the world were chased from their dwellings. They had been forced to choose to throw away their magic live as humans, or else live in hiding in remote areas where the toxin of humans didn't reach. In that sense, Rokkenjima, with its population of only a few dozen humans, was extremely favorable for witches, and even more favorable than the existence of a ghost story about the witch who lived in the Rokkenjima forest. In other words, by permeating the island with the fear that a witch might exist, the magic-resisting toxin from the humans was weakened. A small population had room for them to acknowledge magical beings. In other words, magic that were only weakly anti-magical. Minds that were only weakly anti-magical. Only by existing in the valley where those two converged could a witch live in modern times. And Battler denying it literally as a power limiter. Okay. I see. So using this formula, we can arrive at several rules for how a witch can use her power efficiently. The first is presentation. Create a murder scene that couldn't conceivably have been done by humans. Decorate it in an occult way. Make it look very much like a witch exists. And permeate people with fear to make them believe that witches exist. Which at this point we're going again with the idea that fear and physical pain are ways to make someone submit. And make someone acknowledge it and believe and pay. And it's fucking news stations. Like, at some point, like, news, like, in the past, news was supposed to be on TV and it was just, like, literally, here's your information, the end. But when they realize, hey, we can get, like, ratings and we make money, the news went away from information to just sensationalism. You have to just say the shit that makes people pay attention. It's a fucking YouTube algorithm. It's like, you're not trying to put things forth that are good or right. It's just, what gets the most reaction? What gets the most comments, clicks? What gets the most engagement? And usually things that piss people off or are outrageous, you know, get the most attention. So at that point, we're doing stuff that's grotesque and psychotic for the sake of attention. Oh my god, it's social media. Magic's just being parasocial. As a result, the anti-magic power and the denominator for magical power will be decreased. I see, so this is why the creepy magic circles in the first Twilight were created. That's right, exactly. The gaudy scenes from the first Twilight in each games are all for that reason. It's definitely not as though I like being cruel or am doing it for fun. In that case, Predecessor Sama, you failed this time around. You killed him in a very plain way. It doesn't look like anything more than a simple mystery. I heard about last time and the time before that from Renove. You should have damaged the corpses more grotesquely like you did then, making it look more like fantasy and instilling fear in those people. Well, about that. I thought it wouldn't be artful to do that every time, you see? Don't think too deeply on it. It's just a whim. Actually, it really had been her whim. After what Battler had said to her, she couldn't say it out loud anymore, but she really had decided her methods of killing based on mere whims. No, it would be better to say that she had half-heartedly let Renove decide. After all, she left the closed rooms of this game's first twilight to him. But if she had a cruel idea, then she would surely have explored the limits of atrocity, even worse than in the previous game. You told me to show some restraint when deciding Rosa and Maria's deaths, too, but that wasn't a course of action beneficial to us witches either, was it? In actuality, by now, none of them believe one bit that a witch actually exists. They're totally sure that it's a mystery, not a fantasy. This turn of events is a failure from a witch perspective. For some reason, you keep doing things in a kinda lukewarm way, Predecessor Sama. Like I said, things you learn when you're young will definitely help you out in the future. This is a test passed on from my predecessor to you. Take it on with respect. Wahahaha. Beato tried to laugh heartily. This is like fucking Eins Olgone, trying to pretend he's fucking evil at this point. And at some point just becoming the mask, but then knowing you have to keep it up or else everyone's going to call you on, hey, you're not as evil as we think you are. Still doesn't change the fact that Beatrice has been a psychotic bitch. But it was only obviously the fake laugh of someone trying to cover something up. And the new witch shrugged with a sigh. At this stage, it's probably too late to create a scene and reduce the anti-magic power. In that case, there's another move. Getting the humans to split up should work. Indeed, that is probably the most effective way. The smaller the number of humans, the more the denominator shrinks. As a result, the magical power functions instantaneously. In other words, it all begins from one point: how to destroy this barricade situation and have them split up into small groups. However, they are already very cautious. The barricade won't be destroyed easily, right? Both the barricade in Kinzo's study 2 games ago and the barricade in the parlor last game were very stubborn. Furthermore, most of the cunning adults still remain this time. The situation is more difficult than all the ones before it, understand? If you wish, I could give you some special advice. In a closed circle, when the first murder case occurs, the survivors always hold up, gathering together to observe each other and ensure their safety. Funnily enough, not only do mystery authors and murder culprits worry about how to break that situation apart, but so do witches who supposedly exist at the other end of the spectrum. For a while, the new witch poked her cheek with her pointer finger. After acting as though she was planning something, she spoke. No, I'm fine. After all, it is a test. I won't borrow your moves. Really? Still, it will be rather difficult to defeat this barricade, right? I've already made my move. I'm pretty sure it'll work. And it'll definitely work on someone smart. Is that so? You really are excellent. I am pleased to see that my disciple won't be causing me much trouble. My motto is to study things myself before asking other people. Then, if you would excuse me, I have to wait for my prey to get lured out. Indeed. Well then, handle it with care. As the new witch lowered her head, her face blank, she turned into gold butterflies and vanished. Beato didn't look happy at all. She seemed to be lonely because of how little she was being relied on. Not one of them gives a fig for me. You witch apprentice acting so smart. I'll bet she makes some painful mistake and starts crying. Then, without a doubt, she'll finally realize my greatness and beg me to teach her. Cackle. Until then, I shall watch from on high. She laughed loudly on the outside, but a laugh no one can hear is completely pointless. Beato gave up and quickly stopped laughing. It's like she's like the WWE people walking like, yeah, but there's, the stadium's empty. It's like, oh. Renove chose that time to show himself. Excuse me, my lady. The game of the second twilight with Battler-sama has ended. I see. Good work. What was the result? My sincere apologies. I was forced to resign. By saying in red that both deaths were homicides, I made Battler revise his claim of Rosa strangled Maria to death and then died in an accident, but I could not repel his claim of moves placing Ava as the principal offender. Wasn't Ava sleeping in her room the whole time, as Hideyoshi cared for her? He put forth the possibility Hideyoshi was an accomplice, and that the two worked together to create an alibi. Oh, that's actually what I was guessing. He even suspects Hideyoshi? Couldn't you have struck back by saying in red that he was in the guest room at the time of the murder? I also thought of that, but multiple important pieces might have been taken several moves later. And because this move might be connected to the new Beatrice-sama's strategy, I acted out of respect to her. My apologies. Strategy, you say? Her mind does seem to be sharp. We can let her do as she pleases. It will be quite a show to see how far she can go. Poo-coo-coo-coo-coo, I thought you would say that. I see that uncuteness of your disciple has left you in a bad mood. That's none of your business. I wonder how that one plans to destroy this barricade going forward. I shall keep a close eye on her. Oh, and how is Battler's mood? It appears as though he had calmed himself down. He didn't say that he couldn't get fired. He did say that he couldn't get fired up after all without you as his opponent. But really? Well, that's no surprise. No surprise at all. The little mouth thing. That's so common in anime. If I don't return for the fourth twilight and after, Battler will probably be lonely himself. And with that, if you would excuse me, I need to go bake some delicious cookies. I must at least enliven the discussion between you and Battler-sama, my lady. Indeed. That guy really was munching your cookies, wasn't he? Are they made from human flesh? It's no surprise that a boy can eat so much. Make a lot of them. I mean, I like this attitude that she's currently having. You know, if it wasn't for, like, the other things she's displayed, if this was, like, the only side we've seen of Beatrice so far, like, right what we're seeing right now, then I don't think anyone would have any complaints with her. But, you know. And then again, if you showed a scene only of Hitler playing with his dog and being a lovable dog owner, well, from that alone, you would think he's probably an A-OK guy. But when you start to introduce a little background information about him, you're like, oh, those are not good things at all. Certainly, I shall make enough cookies to bury the table. That sounds great. Are the cookies made out of humans? Or is it... Why am I imagining Battler, Beato, and Renove sitting around a cookie table, eating the cookies peacefully, and then the fucking Cookie Monster smashes in through the window, and then everyone's like, and then he starts eating the cookies, and he's like, oh my, I'm really thirsty, and then the fucking Kool-Aid man, and everyone's like, talking about like, he's talking about like he's thirsty, and it's like there's no milk, and he's like there's no milk. I'll have to eat people, and they're like oh no, oh no, oh no, and then the fucking Kool-Aid man jumps in through the wall, but he's filled with Earl Grey tea, and then he has a pitcher of milk beside him, and he pours the milk into his head. Then 5 minutes later, we see the Cookie Monster drowning inside. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking of that. What's going on? What did you want to talk about? Is Kyrie solving the riddle of the gold? Kyrie called Rudolph out into the corridor. It was obvious that she wanted to talk about something that she didn't want the others to hear. Yeah? I want to go outside. Did the new Beatrice make a handwritten letter for Kyrie to find that's supposed to be by Ava, talking about where the gold is? Certainly the body cannot last with nothing more than a small breakfast, but... Okay, till next time, guys. Later.